Hello and welcome back to Races Now, and we're here for the Derby preview. We've already previewed the Oaks runner by runner, and we're now going to do the same for the boys in the Derby. SD, would you like to start us off?
Absolutely. Well, our Wasel Storm. You know what? The owners very often have a bit of success in this race, running very well. But I think on all known form, a Chester Maiden to here is a large step up. So is readily opposed. Readily opposed.
Yeah, yeah. Next one is Damisus. Is a very striking looking horse. Has had two runs this season. Was a bit disappointed on reappearance. Then did run a very good race to finish second behind Pride of Arras in the Dante. I think that was a very good run, and I think he's a player here. Not one that I would be backing myself, but I think will run well here. Again, the step up in trip, I think will be fine for this one, and yeah, I think could go pretty well. Anything to add there, SD?
Well, nothing really. We'll come on to the Dante form shortly.
Next one.
Delacroix. Well, I remember previewing this race with Adam a year ago, and it does remind me a bit of LA. This horse, will probably win an open age Group One, but is it going to be the Derby? Well, I think the key to the question is how good some of the others are, which we don't know. Look, has done very little wrong this season, but was odds on both starts, but has won readily. Did seem to. I have to say the run in the Racing Post Trophy didn't particularly enamor me from a form point of view, and was of course beaten by Green Impact at Leopardstown last season. I don't know. My gut feeling is something will be better than it, and lacks a bit of vavavoom.
Yeah. I think it's pretty fair to say that it's had two runs this season and hasn't really beaten a whole lot. Um, and I think well, obviously did beat the Chester Derby trial winner, but yeah, I think it was expected to win both them races. I think it won them nicely and it did look good in them, but yeah, there's still a lot to see, and I think the 2-year-old form isn't the strongest in this race for sure. Moving on to one with slightly less chance, and we have Green Storm, another one for the same colours as Wazzle Storm, and similar applies really. Is probably in the deep end here. If he runs, will be a very big price, and is that for a good reason?
I think Lambourne is going to be a bit of a boat. Might be more of a ledger horse. Could well be a Ascot Gold Cup horse next year if it's got the class, which is still open to debate. But I think it's going to need a lot further than this. It wouldn't be for me at all.
Yeah, agreed on that one. To the next one, that is Lazy Griff, ridden by Christoph Suleiman, Sumilian.
Soumillon.
Complete,
Soumillon.
completely. But I said it the first time. I just knew I was going
I
to
was doing
butcher it
my
again.
best impression of him.
Yes, finished second behind Lambourne. And like SD said, I'm not sure that Lambourne's that great. So to finish second behind him, I don't think gives you great form into the Derby. And 100 to 1 pretty much sums up the chance.
Midland Park obviously want the owners' badges. That'll upset a few people. My deck. Do you know what? It's done little wrong in France. Won the Prix Greffure quite well, I thought as well. It wouldn't surprise me if Maidak ran well. Obviously, he's in the colours of the late Aga Khan, and Barcelona's on. Be fascinating to see what he'd do if he won after Paul Moir. We all remember that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this horse ran well. Pretty unexposed.
Yes, agreed. I mean, I'm not a big French enthusiast, but yeah, has done things well, and obviously it would be some story if it was to win with the name of the race, the colours. To the next one, the other French horse in this, New Ground. Again, like I said, I'm not a huge French enthusiast, but
We should have had Ormed on, shouldn't we?
yeah, that just
I mean, honestly, he's more French than Charles de Gaulle is Ormed.
yeah, finished third in the last couple of in 2 races this season. What that form really works out to, I'm not sure, but does seem to have a bit of a uphill battle here to win this race.
I'm gonna put something out there now. I think of all the rides in this race, Nighttime Dancer's probably the best one. And I will back Nighttime Dancer at a stupid price on the exchange. And or if firms are going 4 or maybe even 5 places in the Derby, because inevitably a horse can run well in the Derby at a massive price. We've seen it lots and lots of times. I've forgotten the horse of Clyde Britton's that was second at a huge price 30 or 40 years ago. I thought still looked a bit inexperienced last time, coming wide around the bend at Lingfield. Kept on reasonably well. Might just improve a little bit for that. I think it'll stay. I think the right pilot's on in Spencer, and I think it could go very, very well at a huge price. So there you go.
Do you think it could overturn the form with Puppet Master?
I'm not sure Puppet Master will run, will it?
It sounded like, from what I read earlier, that they were looking at having 3 in the race. I'm not sure whether he will, but he is there for now. So it was just the question whilst he is there
It
for
wouldn't
now.
surprise me. Look, if he's trading at 300 on one day or something daft like that, I'll throw a few quid at him. I think he's if there's one of those novelty markets which Coral usually do is the best outsider. I think that might be the way to play him.
Very interesting.
So there you go.
On to the next one, and we have Nightwalker for Juddmonte, and this one, another one from the Dante, finished 5th in that race. Again, ran a decent enough race. I think the step up in trip will be 2 1.5 miles will be one that will see it to better light in this race as opposed to the Dante. Could run a good race, but for winning purposes, I wouldn't be sure that this one is up to that standard. I think there'll be a few better than it in this race.
Pride of Aris obviously didn't do a lot wrong in the Dante. Now, beforehand, the Dante looked a fairly decent contest, but it has to be said the time of the Dante was not great, and they all finished in a bit of a heap as well. It would be stupid of me to say this horse can't win. He's an unexposed horse, and the sky could be the limit. But I am just a little bit reserved on the form of the Dante, and especially with the Lion in winter, obviously not running up to form either. So maybe not.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a very interesting one with that Dante form, because we have got a few horses in here, and obviously the Lion in Winter is going to come here. Whether I've run or not, that's one to be seen. But I think it is going to be very interesting. Obviously, Pride of Arrows has only had 2 runs himself, and I think it was impressive enough to come off that much of a break. And to win that race. I think that was quite impressive. But
they were in a bit of a heap, and the time wasn't great, was it?
No, it wasn't. But I would say that Pride of Arrows has probably got a lot more to come as well.
Possibly. Should have.
Yes. On to the next, we have Puppet Master, another for Aidan O'Brien. Whether it will run, like SD said, is up in the air, unsure. Around 80 to 1 at the minute. The Lingfield Derby trial doesn't look a whole great deal. I thought it was a little bit interesting, and it was. I thought the second was a little bit unlucky on the day. Stay true, and I think that one could be. I quite liked that horse, but yeah, I think for Puppet Master, again, whether it will run is another thing, and yeah, I'd be surprised if this one was up to running. It could end up being something like I don't know, like a pacemaker or something like that. But I'd be surprised if they were running something like that. But yeah, it doesn't look like it has a whole lot of chance on paper for me.
Rogue Empire. Well, James Owens exploded onto the trading scene this last 18 months. This would be, by some way, his greatest feat to date. Finished last at Lingfield, having previously taken a maiden there. Obviously well thought of, but surely an all-known form. Will finish last here.
Yeah. Not really a lot else to say on that one. Next one is Rolling Court, and I think that one is my idea of the winner at this stage. I think it's the best trial. I think for all that there's been a lot of talk, will he stay the 1.5-mile trip? I think. I mean, last season it was going into the last season. It was all about Rolling Court was more about the Derby than the Guineas as such. So I think, it's the best trial, and I think it could turn out to be the best horse in here.
Ballsy.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure I understand yourself.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I think he will get 10 furlongs standing on his head, but at 12, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is definitely one that is up for debate, but I do think he will, and yeah, I'm very hopeful.
Yes.
Next
Well,
one.
Sea Scout won the worst trial for this race, the Blue Ribbon, which nothing ever comes out of, and then was promptly put in its place in the Dante. Won't be winning this, will it?
Yeah, yes, seems pretty fair. Stanhope Garden was one that I was interested in probably about a week ago at 25 to 1. Didn't was thought it was one running under the radar, but is now around 16 to 1. I think that is about fair enough, and not really one that I'm looking to back as such. Very unconventional route to the Derby as well, in a Salisbury condition stakes, going off 2 to 11 favourite and winning as it should really. Second behind Deloqua last season in the autumn stakes at Newmarket. That's pretty good form. Obviously, I mean, is now the Derby favourite. So, yes.
I think Stanhope might get a place. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think should stay. As you say, the prep is the quite. It's like they wanted to run at Salisbury, didn't they? Just to get a run into. Wasn't 100% convincing at Salisbury, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me. Tennessee Stud, well, was on all known form. Has something to find here. Was beaten nearly 7 lengths behind Delacroix at Leopardstown in the Derby trial there. I mean, it takes quite a bit to see this horse involved, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. On to the next, and probably one of the big talking horses going into the Derby this week is the Lion in Winter. A disappointing reappearance run in the Dante, finished 6th of 11. I think there was plenty of enough excuses, and it will be interesting to see what happens over the next few days with who Ryan Moore does decide to ride. It looked a couple of days ago like Delacroix was the one that he was riding, and then a couple of hours ago there was a bit of a curveball where Aidan sort of said, "Oh, we're not actually sure." I know SD has already put up a Lion in Winter at 6 to 1 after that defeat in the Dante. Went out as big as 10s last week, and that drift seems to be seems to have gone, and there is no tens about anymore. 6-1, the biggest price now. And I think it will be an interesting one on the day. See just how much he has improved from that Dante.
I think it's majorly interesting. I mean, we've seen it, in this race the last couple of years. Horses have not performed well first time out riding, and then they've improved. I think this horse has much the best 2-year-old form in the race. The Dante, absolutely everything went. I mean, I poo pooed the Dante form, but you could put a line in it through the line in winter. It's interesting you drifted last week. That almost puts you off a bit. I know he's come in, but clearly all may not have been well in Tipperary
Mm,
land. I think if Ryan rides him, he'll go off favourite.
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if he does. Um, I'm holding back slightly, with all this drifting and stuff last week. It does put you off, but he'd be my idea of the winner at this stage.
I think it is also interesting going into the Dante. Like just before the Dante, it was strong in the betting just before the Dante. But yeah, like I think it was everything went wrong and 4 lengths back to what is now the third favourite, I believe, in Pride of Arras. If that all gets ironed out, and obviously, like Aidan O'Brien said, he only just made it to that race after being out, and I mean he's been a non-runner more times than he's run in
I
his time.
mean, I mean, Adam you loves using the thing. He calls it Pallidoyle bingo or something, trying to second guess it. And he always gets it wrong. I mean, I remember putting the winner of this up last year, and he was adamant it couldn't win. Um, I, I I think the Lion in Winter has the potential to be the best horse in the race. We talked about Vavavoom before with Deloqua, and this horse's Aiken win had Vavavoom in absolute bucket loads. I I,
Yes.
I think if he's trained on and it does, you don't know, he could improve a hell of a lot on that Dante run.
Yes, I do agree. I think the only slight thing for me is that obviously a lot of people are going to draw up on City of Troy and Auguste Rodin. I think it's very different bombing out. Well, I don't even think he bombed out as such in the end, but bombing out in the Guineas and the Dante, there's a time gap there to recover. But here we are, and we'll see what happens come Saturday.
I think there are some parallels, and he obviously didn't bomb out half as bad as City of Troy did in the
Yeah,
Guineas last year.
and Auguste Rodin. I think
I
that's key.
actually think that the parallels are valid because clearly the way Ballydoyle are approaching flat seasons and how they campaign their horses has certainly changed over the last 3 years or so.
Yeah, I mean they're turning up to the Guineas, and it's I mean, they still end up being in and around favourites, but they're never ready almost. And then all of a sudden, we get round to sort of Chester time, and then their horses start flying in, and yeah, and we will see come Saturday. On to the next one then.
Oh, tornado alert! This wouldn't completely surprise me. Thought he stepped forward in the Guineas. Um, Probably won't stay, but I think if he does, he wouldn't be a million miles off these. I think in terms of form, that was a reasonable enough effort. First time up, stepped up a hell of a lot on what he'd done previously. As I say, probably won't stay, but would not completely surprise me.
Yeah, I think he is one that I am interested in at a big price. I do think that run in the Guineas was very like I think you looked at the front three and they sort of seemed clear, and he kept on quite well in behind to essentially
Yeah,
win race two
he took the
almost.
grip, didn't he, that day? I think he's interesting.
Yeah, Machine
At
Murphy
the
takes the
odds,
ride.
at the prices, I was saying things like,
Mm,
I can't see Rugen Court staying. Well, I probably can't see this horse staying, but the difference
ten times the
is
odds.
yeah, he's 10 times the price, and you could play him. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
hmm
I think he showed what he did show was a bit of class, which a lot of these don't have.
Yep, agreed. Agreed. And the last horse to touch on is Tuscan Hills, another one from the Dante, 7th in that Dante. So only a quarter of a length behind Lion in Winter, but not quite the excuses for this one. Had won 2 races previously, but yeah, I think this one is a bit of a long shot, and 100 to 1 does sum that up, really.
Yeah, won the Silver Tankard, one of my favourite races at Ponte Carlo last year.
Ponte Carlo. Yeah, he
Well,
did win that one well on soft ground.
yeah, I mean, no, shouldn't be winning this. Although I have to say, I have been quite rude about Keir on this channel before, but I thought his interview with Nick Luck was a little refreshing, and it's nice to see his views being heard. I wish Keir well. I take back all my previous criticism. Um, and that concludes it. So, if you would you put a bet up at this stage, Harry?
Yeah, I'd say that I would be back in ruling court at
So, two
4 to 1.
questions for you then.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm not putting a bet up, by the way, because I've
You're
already
already
put
on.
the
Yeah.
Lion in Winter up. Um, would you back him at this stage? That's what I asked you.
Yeah, I don't see why not, to be honest.
Because what you then got to ask yourself, if anti-post betting, if he gets a bit of put in his foot tomorrow morning, so
Well,
you
yeah.
think he'll start shorter?
I do think so. Yes, I think.
Uh,
Well, I think only about a point. But to be honest with you, yeah, it probably is the best to wait until. Well, it's only tomorrow morning, isn't it? The declarations.
oh yes, we've got the
72
wonderful
hour.
advent of 3-day decks.
So it's only
And
tomorrow
not,
morning. So yes, I probably would wait until tomorrow, and then it wouldn't be.
we better
It'd be
put
not.
this up very quickly. We just had a message from can we put it up tomorrow morning? No, you can't. The technical department is working like hamsters in a wheel in Kent and need to get this up so all the people can get on and hear me say no bet at this stage.
And that will conclude our Derby runner by
Yes,
runner
we must
preview.
also say, obviously, the Derby is not the most important 3-year-old race of the day on Saturday. Do you know what the most important 3-year-old race of the day is?
I don't. I
You
feel like
don't.
it's what are we from over at Hexham? Something
You're
like
getting
that.
it. Have you
I
seen
can't.
it?
I haven't.
Have you not seen the best bit? Absolutely fantastic value at Hexham on Saturday. We do have a competition actually for a week on Saturday. If you want to go racing at Hexham, 6 tickets up for grabs, and you can go to Britain's most scenic racecourse and see friend of the channel John Hutchinson, who is very much alive. We were a bit concerned an hour or so ago after he'd been off grid all day, but I'm told friend of the channel is very much alive. And of course, at 5:50 on Saturday, it is the most important 3-year-old race of the day, juvenile hurdle. How fantastic is that? And there's a few in there who were quite interesting, I thought. But we will save that till Saturday morning when obviously we'll be giving you some tips, but there's a few in there. You've got to stay in that race. You can't have a 6 furlong horse running around Hexham. It will run out of puff. Happens every year.
Yes, I mean I was waiting for the gag there, but it appears that is the most important 3-year-old race on Saturday. So I mean that will conclude today's runner by runner preview of the Derby, and make sure to keep your eye out for the most important 3-year-old at Hexham on Saturday.
Yes, yes. Have a good evening. And can you believe, Harry? It's 30 years since Lantara won the Derby.
Wow, I mean I can't.
You were merely a tadpole in your dad's ball sack at that point. You missed Lantara winning the Derby.
Yeah, I
One
mean,
run it had. The choir boy was on, and honestly, it came from another parish in Surrey. To watch that race, fantastic race to watch, and that, of course, was the emergence of Godolphin in the green colours as they were then.
well, I mean, more history from SD. I mean, that was slightly before my time, but yes,
Yes,
all hits for Derby history. One of the most historic races in the calendar.
yes, right. Have a good evening, everyone. Don't get drunk. I'm off on holiday, so you will see me in my Bermuda shorts, broadcasting to you with the daily tips. I don't take holidays. Captain Birdseye does.
And yes, we will see you on Thursday for the usual Saturday betting preview and obviously SD's daily tips, which have been firing winners left, right, and centre. Thank you very much for listening.